Well, did you just? No, now you're live.
Well, I screwed that up. But it said when I pushed the thing, it said going live.
That was just the countdown. You see what I'm working with, Justin? I was wondering why I couldn't find the video.
Well, you know what? If you work on cars good, we wouldn't have this problem.
Oh, man, I'm like.
All right, anyway, we'll go back over this again. We'll go back over it again real quick. Enduro's at Langley Speedway, Jimmy Atkins, late model,
Brendan Queen all over.
Super
Street.
Landon Abbott, the legends, Tommy Jackson Jr., Jacob Derrick finished second, and in the bandos, Riley Music got the win. The Dominion Raceway, Doug Barnes got the late model win. The Dominion Racer Limited late model, Ryan Matthews. The modifieds, Adam Medak. This is not funny.
Well.
Sobo, the smart mods were there with Ryan Priest getting the win, and Trey Cruz got the late model. Hickory had 2 races with the past series. Derek Griffith got 2 wins there, one Saturday, one Sunday. Wake County, Zach Marks got the win. Down at Carteret, they're doing that $45,000 late model thing where you and you have to. That's a Super 5 late models.
Yes, sir.
You got to be there. Anyway, Jared Fryer got the first win, and Zach Lightfoot got the second one. At Florence, Josh Berry got the win in the late models at Florence. At Tri-County, Braden Rogers, one of those cars that Leland Honeyman was talking about, and they got the win there. And Justin Johnson. Down at VMS, Justin Williams got the pro late model win, and at Halifax County, Willie Milligan got the win in the late models. Our driver of the week this week, it was a close call for driver of the week this week.
Well, no, I didn't even get a vote. I wasn't on the memo. So.
Well, the memo was sent out where you didn't see it. Brian saw it, and he sent me a vote. Anyway.
About like we went live 10 minutes ago.
It's not funny. It's not funny, Scott. Where'd it go? Thomas Marks is the driver of the week this week. Had a really close one between Thomas Marks, Jacob Derrick, and Ryan Matthews. Yeah. So that's all the...
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with Jacob. I mean, I was really impressed with him. First time in a big car. I mean, going from a Bando to a Legends car is that's a big jump. I mean, anything coming from a Bando and going to something is a pretty good jump, but it's really a jump in that Legends car.
And I'll go back over our sponsors in a little while. I ain't gonna do that right now.
They were mentioned, I promise.
Why don't you click the top right, and then at least you can see everybody's comment. I guess there is. Okay. Maybe ain't nobody commented yet, I guess.
Maybe they didn't know we was on. But I've got 16 people on here. So that's anyway. All right, our first guest tonight is Juston Ellis. He's the safety official here at Larry King Law's Langley Speedway, and has a lot going on in his book. We were sitting here talking. He's got a lot going on the first 2 weeks of the season. I know that's got to be hectic for you the first 2 weeks.
It is. Basically, when you're breaking down all the safety equipment piece by piece, part by part, doing the interior of the car, make sure everything's where it needs to be, it gets to be a point where I think Brian Crawford and I did probably close to 76 inspections on Saturday. And I wasn't counting the previous week when we started doing open practice on 327. There was a lot of inspections that day, too. I think we did 46 that opening day. So.
Wow.
No. So what are you looking for? We all think, well, the car's fine.
Car's fine, yeah. Basically, inside the car, we do a complete interior. We break the interior completely down, so anything that's within driver's reach, make sure there has to be roll bar padding on it, some form of roll bar padding. I know a lot of people put pool noodles on it, but it's never a good thing to put a pool noodle in there, just because if they catch fire, they melt pretty fast, and it will burn you completely. Next thing is we start looking for extinguishers in the car. We start looking for seat belts, kind of where they're at, the dates on the seat belts, see if there's any stress, any tear in the stitching. And then basically after that, we start doing a complete outer car inspection. After we basically look at the helmet, the Hans, all the drivers' PPE completely on that aspect of it. And then we start doing it on the outside to make sure the fuel cells are protected the way they're supposed to be. Because that's one thing that scares me more than anything. If we had a 22-gallon fuel cell fire out here, it's going to burn, and we've got to put it out as fast as we can. Don't get me wrong, our safety team is probably one of the best in the business, and I'll put them up against anybody in the United States. That's how much faith I have in these guys, and they are probably, bar none, probably the best team, one of the best teams I've ever worked with. So we start going through undercar, make sure the drive shaft loops are where they're supposed to be, fuel cell, make sure the battery's secure the way it's supposed to be, make sure the lead's mounted in the car the way it's supposed to, because a couple years ago we had an issue where a piece of ballast fell out of a car and hit another driver, and it came through the windshield of another driver. So all that's very important when it comes to a driver safety program.
So when you look at these enduros now, I'm not trying to pick on these enduros at all. I'm not trying to do that. But how close do you look at do you look at the same things for an enduro that you would in like the roll cage and everything in there? Do you look at all those? Because, you know, I ain't gonna say that, but I was going to make a comment. Sometimes they're rigged up a little bit, but I mean, with these enduros, I know you have to pay attention. They're race cars too.
Believe it or not, our enduros that race here on a weekly basis, they are by far some of the best equipped cars there is. They have taken pride in what they have to do, and I think these cars are carrying so much more speed in the enduro division that they have to be protected now. Part of the rule is they have to have a 7-bar across the back to keep the car from crushing from side to side. They also have to have a door bar to protect themselves on the left-hand side. I've seen a lot of cars this year that not quite sure who the fabricator is, but they're building half cages inside the car. It's a 4-point cage inside of it, and it basically protects the driver all the way around. It's probably some of the best craftsmanship I've seen.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So when it comes down to it, now the day of destruction cars and enduros are a little bit different compared to our weekly, but the weekly guys here, they take pride. They have a race car just like anybody else. And their safety is just as important as any other drivers out here, and they make sure that they're taken home to go home to their families.
You got a lot going on. Talk a little bit about drive shaft and what are you looking for as far as safety on the drive shaft? Now I know there has to be inside where you can't come up through the floor and hit the driver and everything, but there's also other things that need to be done there with the drive shaft. Tell us a little bit about, because I understand that was a problem with somebody somewhere along the line.
Go ahead.
And that wasn't a Pro 6.
No, sir, it was not. It was not. It was, once I got the information cleared up, it was a late model, but it was an older model chassis. Basically inside of it is one of the first ones I've seen, but I think it was a mechanical failure somewhere else in the car, and it was not just because the drive shaft broke and came through the tunnel. Once we did an inspection on the drive shaft down there, and I got pictures sent to me after it got back to their shop and got it lifted up, it looked like there was a failure towards the back or maybe on the front side of it, and the drive shaft dropped to the ground and pinched almost in half. So it was not one of those things that got completely wrenched off. It was actually pinched, almost snapped in half of it. Completely different deal.
So when you look at the drive shaft in these cars, do you also have to have the loop in the cars too? I mean, I didn't hear you say anything about that, but I'm taking you have to have the loop in
yes,
the car.
Sir. My apologies. Yes, it does have to have the drive shaft loops, and depends on what model you have or what division you're running in, whether it has to be 1 bar or 2 bars, but it has to be secured through the drive shaft tunnel, where that way it protects the driver from coming up through the floorboard.
I know you had some questions on equipment.
Well, I was just going to clarify, like the helmets, what dates they have, and the late models are under a little bit different rule. We had talked about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just clarified for some people and just put it out there. It has nothing to do with HRKC. That's a wholly completely different set of rules.
It is. That is correct. Yes, sir.
Because I know some people are going to say, well, ours, it's different. So 2 separate categories.
One of the things that Chief actually does, him and I had a conversation back before the season started of what he's requiring the HRKC guys and gals to run, which is basically kind of somewhat in line with where we're at, but sometimes that SA rating gets crossed over one way or the other. Here at Langley Speedway, it's SA 2000, SA 2010 or better per the rule book right now. Next year it will be bumped to SA 2015 or better, because the 15s and the 20s will be out at that point, or the 20s will be out, so you backdate 5 years on it. I think Scott brought a helmet in here to kind of look at it, but if anybody's curious of where that is, it's tucked on the inside. Sometimes there's a rating on the back of the helmet. The newer models are starting to become that aspect of it. Go ahead and unhook your Hans. But inside the back of the helmet, there's an SA rating in it. And it states on there in that aspect of it. And that's one of the things we look. I mean, we look all the way around the helmet to make sure there is no cracks, no dings, no dents inside the helmet, because the aspect of it is, if you were to take an injury or be transported off the property here at Langley Speedway, the helmet and the Hans plays a big deal when you go for evaluation at the hospital. That is one of the things. This has to go with the medics that are transporting the driver, just because of the fact that they want to see the condition, to the point where we actually send pictures to the medics that are on hand that come out here and help us to assist with us for the transport. We send them pictures as they're en route. That way they can tell the story when they get to the hospital as well, or the trauma center.
So that crack right down the side right here, that's not good.
Bad. Completely bad. I mean, this one's new. This one's nice. It's brand new.
Yeah.
So-
stuck my sweaty head in it once.
But yeah, inside the back of it, there is a rating. I don't know if you, definitely won't be able to tell on the TV, but as you can tell, there's an SA 2020 right in the back side of it. And then on the Hans device, basically when you start working on the Hans, there's a certification sticker, an SFI certification sticker on it that'll be punch dated. And it's a 5-year life, well not lifespan, but a 5-year deal on there. And then you have to actually send it to get it back, to get it recerted, and they'll put a new SFI sticker on it. And I think there's I think it costs about 125, 150 bucks, I think is what it is. But you know what, it's definitely worth it. 150 bucks when you're still starting to talk about something that's really going to protect your life and a tragic incident.
I agree. And
So they mark this as when it expires, right? Or is that?
It's
or
when it's dated. It's
when
5
dated,
years
so-
from the punch date.
Okay.
Same thing like seat belts are. They're 5 years for support divisions, compared to late models are 2 years. So basically inside of a late model, everything that's 2 years inside the car, that's the punch date. So if it calls out January of 2020, it's good until January of 2022. With our support division, we always kind of allow it to expand a little bit unless it's taken a hit to the wall or something like that, where the safety teams had to go out there and evaluate the driver. It's one of those situations that we start talking to them, and we highly recommend. We can't tell anybody to do anything unless it's in the rule book, but we can highly recommend, hey, we think you might want to change the belts, or we highly recommend that you might want to relocate the location of your belts, because some guys will tie it down to the very bottom bar underneath the 7 bar, where basically if they were to take a hit, the seat has a possibility to crush. It'll fold up like a lawn chair, especially on some of the older aluminum seats. That it's just one of those things. It's better to have the belts up as high as possible so it comes right across the driver and keeps him inside the seat, instead of having a chance to be basically catapulted from one side of the car to the other.
There's the things that I would have not have thought of. I mean, we just,
When it comes
just mount them somewhere,
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, the further your belt goes out, the more it has a tendency, if you were to take an impact, just even a small hit, it will take that stretch. Your body is going to move. NASCAR did studies year after year. They teamed up with Toyota in order to do a lot of in-car studies to see basically kind of what the body does when it does get a jar inside the car. Even as simple as hitting a wall slap. I mean, just hitting the side of the wall where your head will move to the other. That's the reason why they started going to the 39-1 containment seats.
so when you look at the head and neck restraints, the Hutchins, we discussed this earlier, the Hutchins is still a device that can be used, and the Hans.
Correct.
Now, is there any plan somewhere along the line? Because I've always heard that some places they go strictly by Hans. They want to do that.
That is, I mean, and it's one of those things. Even in the NASCAR rule book, when you buy your license for the year and they send you the rule book, or they used to, now you get to download it. But basically, it's always highly recommended. It's never one of those things that you are going to be required to wear this, because then it takes on to a liability that the track and other entities or sanctioning bodies just don't want to. They want to associate themselves with it because they want to take care of the driver and make sure the driver's okay. But it's one of those things that it's that area basically where you set up and say, listen, we highly recommend that you do this in order to protect your life. And most of the time, if you get on the phone with their loved ones, they'll be like, oh, he was going to take care of it. He's going to fix it.
Even your wife might say that about you.
That's questionable.
Let me have her number real fast.
But that's, I mean, you've been doing this a while now, as we were talking earlier. You've been doing it a while. it's got to be hard to, when the cars come through there and you see stuff, and these guys are so gun-ho that they're ready to go racing, and you can say, that's not going to work. What do you do? Let's say the guy goes through the first time.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you give them till you get it right, or is it the one time and you?
Basically, when you come down to the driver safety portion of it, I mean, we always have a somewhat of a grace period, but we always do an inspection to make sure that it will pass, you know, to a certain point. It might not be within date, but it's also one of the things that we'll look at and say, okay, listen, you need to update this helmet, or you need to update this Hans. I'm pretty sure if anybody's watching that's been through inspections in the last 2 weeks, they have heard me say, guys, you need to get this recerted. We built a database dealing with safety equipment here just because how important I think it is, and our team thinks it is. It's basically one of those things, we built a database so I know exactly, if you come to the line, if you have an SA2 or SA95 helmet, I know exactly what it is, and I told the guys, I said it needs to be replaced within a reasonable amount of time, because if not, then we're going to have a completely different conversation. You always have to know what line to walk on. You don't want to be mean to the guys, but at the same time, you want to make sure they understand their safety is very important.
All right, safety between tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about safety between different tracks and everything.
Okay.
You get some of these guys that come in from other tracks,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to meet your guidelines when they come through here.
Mm-hmm.
How much leeway do you give those guys if they're not exactly within what you want?
Believe it or not, I mean, almost every track that I've experienced or I've had to deal with, especially when I was traveling and everything else, it's one of those things, most of their guys' safety programs are the same. They are going to go from place to place, especially the late models. They know if it's 2 years here, it's going to be 2 years down the street. Now, other support divisions, it depends on what, I guess when Southside, some of the Southside drivers were coming down this way, I'm not quite sure everything they had to deal with or whether they enforced it there or not, because I never had an opportunity to work there as far as on the safety side of it. But I do know when they get here, they're like, man, I didn't even think about it. Like Scott said, it's one of the things, some drivers don't even think about the Hans, but for the last couple of years, the last 3 years here, we've actually been stressing that more and more every year to make sure these guys get this certified and get their helmets up to date. And it's been a great response back to these guys. They actually are saying, you know what, I've got no problem with it. I'm sorry, I didn't even think about it. Didn't even cross my mind. Yes, I'll get it taken care of. And most of the time they're like, do I need to bring it back to you? Nope, I'll come find you, I can promise you. That's one of the things. So actually this year, we're actually taking and going a step further that for a quick step for the officials on the ground that are working the track when these guys are buckling in or strapping in, they'll have stickers on the Hans and stickers on the helmets on the left side of it. So that way it's a quick indicator, basically, hey, yeah, I know he's been approved for this year, for 2021 season.
Oh, really? Okay, so you guys are going to put a sticker on everybody's helmet?
I didn't have him for opening practice, and I didn't have it for last weekend, but my sticker guys finally got it put together, so I'm going to pick them up and we're going to start stacking them right on the side of the helmet. That basically, it's approved for this racetrack. It doesn't mean it's going to pass somewhere else, but for our standards here at this racetrack, it does pass at Larry King Hall's Langley Speedway.
That's pretty cool. I mean, he's building a database that's going to be huge for, you know, and it's all for the safety of the drivers. It's not for
right.
the detriment of anybody.
No, that's the most important part, to make sure these guys go home the same way they came to the racetrack, happy and mad and all in between.
Well, I think you have to wear the Hans or a head and neck restraint.
For sure.
I think you have to, and we know situations that, you know, it would be a good idea you better have that thing on for your own safety.
Yeah, you don't realize, I was fortunate enough, when I first got into racing, I worked with Junie Nelson and Ray Platt, and I don't know if you go back that far enough, Juston, but Ray Platt, you know, was actually decapitated at South Boston years and years and years ago. But he would tell Junie, you'd be surprised in a wreck, because back then you just had a lap belt to how far your body would stretch. You know, he said one time he was over in a floorboard and it was like, no, there's no physical way that you could get over there, but in a wreck, your body stretches and you're over in the floorboard. So you'd be surprised at how much your body moves around in those wrecks. And sometimes, like you said, the small ones are a lot more severe than you think. Like you said, smacking the wall. I know an arena car, I hit a car going down the backstretch and he just come down and hit me, and it really didn't seem that bad. But I swear I think I broke a rib in the seat, because I mean my chest hurt for months afterwards.
I mean, believe it or not, the body's going to move regardless. I mean, you have an equal and opposite force against your body. It literally, your body's going to let you know it hurts.
You know, and I'm not trying to bring up bad things, but with Dale Earnhardt when he crashed and everything, that did not look like a crashed,
No.
but it's how it hit. That, how he hit it.
It's called the 1 o'clock hit. I mean, basically into the wall, it's the 1 o'clock shot, and it's probably one of the most detrimental incidents that you could possibly take. I mean, it's one of those things, it might not look hard at all, but if your body's carrying a lot of speed and everything else, or the car's carrying a lot of speed to a certain point, and you make that 1 o'clock hit, it's just that perfect line that goes into a wall or goes into a barrier or any sort, it just in that right direction. Because there's very small amount of impact, and your body's going to go forward and to the right. I mean, it's just one of those things that's going to happen.
Yeah, what did you learn from doing the tour? I mean, you worked the tour for a couple of years,
Correct.
and their safety aspect is much more tighter than what it is here. So I imagine being involved with closer with NASCAR, that there's a lot more information, or a lot more things you see, probably like the videos of how your body moves when you hit the wall at 1 o'clock and those type of things.
Well, to be honest with you, when I worked on the tour level as a director, as I was a tech director for a couple of years, and then I went into the actual touring director role of it. One of your sponsors is going to like this. I have one of the best FIs in the business, Brian Morehouse.
Oh.
No, Brian was a.
Well, his head's big enough.
Yeah,
It is.
he's a good guy though. He definitely
Literally,
is.
he's big
Yeah,
enough.
It is. But he was a great FI, and we had conversations week to week, and he made sure that the safety on those cars, when him and I were working together, that it was probably, bar none, that's where I got the idea for the database here, because we built a database there. So every week you'd be like, all right, Justin, I need the book, here it is, or I'd go back and I'd update it in a spreadsheet, and I'd have it printed out for him, so if we had new cars come in, he already knew what new cars he had to do or take care of and everything else, especially if we had new drivers. It was just one of those things. But when it came down to the safety, believe it or not, Larry King Law's Langley Speedway basically replicas what we did in the tour level, because I think it's that important.
Well, I agree with you. How much training do you get on a yearly basis through NASCAR for your safety stuff that in case there's changes made or new things that they want to let you guys know? Do you get a lot of training on that, or is it just
Well, I was fortunate enough to still have a lot of contacts that do work for NASCAR, and if it's something that's major when it comes down to safety, I kind of keep the line of communication open in order to hear that information coming down. But basically, the safety program that we've built here is basically from year to year what goes off of the rule book. But our safety team here are basically made up of a bunch of guys that they're career firefighters and medics. We all understand how to cut cars. We actually come down here and we do training throughout the year in order to have a car set up here. We bring out the tools, we cut the cars, we go through scenarios on the racetrack to understand what we need to do. And this group of guys that I have the privilege of working with, it's an aspect where when I show up to a scene, when they call out my call sign to come to the racetrack, or I know that's getting ready to be a code called as far as our internal language, when we get there, these guys know exactly what to do. We don't even communicate on the radio. Basically, when I get there, I'm the guy who's going to start talking to the tower, evaluating the tower, telling them I need gates open, or this is happening, or this is happening. And the guys are communicating amongst themselves by just eye contact and hand signals. And that's what makes this team so great, because of the fact that we work together we're ranging from the very first safety team that's put together by John Rosenbaum, and when Lou was out here, and John, they put together the first safety team, which we have still some of the original safety members that are on that team when it was first instituted back in the day. So we range from back then all the way to where we have guys that are coming on to the team now, where they are new to Larry King Law's Langley Speedway, but at the same time they've got a great amount of years of experience in dealing with motorsports. Almost every guy here on the safety team has dealt some form of motorsports rescue or aid for probably anywhere between 5 to 15 years.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. You've been involved here at Langley since 2007. I
Correct.
think is what you said. What all have you? Give us an overview of what all you've done since you've been. I mean, you were telling me about it a few minutes ago, and I thought it was kind of cool how you got started.
Yeah, I actually started over in turn 2, making $50 a day. Basically, getting here from early in the morning and finishing at the nighttime, depending on what time we were leaving that night. But I started out in turn 2, and then gradually I worked my way down to the tech shed, and then I stayed there for a couple years, and then once I got out of the tech shed, by that time I went in to work for the Southern Modified Tour. I was a tech director for them for I think 2 years, and then the third year there, I got the bump to become the tour director there. But still considered Langley home, so I came back here every chance I got to work the big races. And now, since I've been back here, I've kind of headed up the safety team for the last 3 years as the safety director, and still working inside of the tech building and working down there and working with the drivers. And then for the large races, I typically come up here to the tower and call up all of, basically I become an ESC for the racetrack. I take care of all the track services, whether it's the wreckers, safety team, the MIC, the fire truck if we have the engine 101 if we have it at the time, the tool trucks, and sometimes even cleanup.
I know, I've come up here and watched you ride on that, and I'm sitting here, and I'm trying to decipher it from this side, not on the other side. I'm trying to decipher what all is he writing up here?
Well, it's basically, I guess I got into a mindset when I was calling a few races as an ESC for the upper levels of NASCAR. One of the things I learned, basically I used to answer the phone all the time, and you get that phone call from the infield care center telling you something or someone has been evaluated and released. I mean, because that's basically all they can really tell you, and they can't really tell you everything else because of HIPAA laws. But I guess it's just one of those things, it's brainwashing to me. So instead, I'll yell it out through the tower to let the race director know, because they're so busy of doing everything else they're doing in the scoring team. I write it on the wall for my own personal note. I also try to write down the cars that are involved, or I see something, a car that takes a certain hit on the racetrack, I'll start directing my safety team or our safety team in order to go to a certain direction. I know, I kind of have an idea of where the heavy impact's going to be, so I'll start directing the team in a certain direction in order to get those focused on what I consider the harder hit of the two. But like we all agreed here a minute ago, even if it might not look a hard hit, we still got to evaluate.
Now, how tough is it? Because I mean, we're a small community. We're a big family here. When you come to a scene and you know we all know each other, it's got to make it difficult sometimes. You're worried about the person because you know we have a personal connection with everybody here. So you're like, oh man, that was a tough hit.
It's going to sound bad, but in all the years I've been doing this, I've had to learn to compartmentalize, basically break it down. And no offense to anybody, because everybody here I've made a friendship or a relationship with over the years. I have a lot of respect from the drivers, and the drivers have the respect for me as well. But it's one of those things, when I get there, it's a car number at that point. I can put my feelings and emotions to the side, work the incident, work the problem. And then after that, then I have time for grief and everything else when I go home. But here at that racetrack, you have to become one of those people that you have to say, okay, guys, I know this is bad, but we need to pull together. We need to put this together. We need to figure out, let's leave emotion out of it. Let's take care of patient care. And then after that, we will move ourselves into the grieving period.
Well, and it was bad like last year when they had the situation last year. Everybody knows Sean, everybody, and it had to be tough.
It was.
And Scott was here. I wasn't here that night. I was somewhere else. I was at Dominion, I think. Anyway, seeing how everybody reacted to it. Scott was talking about it, and it's got to be hard for you to look at some of those things and say, you know, but you do have to let it go at that point and move on to the next thing, whatever that's going to be. And I don't know that I can compartmentalize like you do in that case.
I guess a lot of it is because of my background, being a firefighter and a medic or EMT. Growing up, that was one of the things I did as a volunteer. I saw a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of blood, guts, and gore. Just because of that's part of the deal you have to deal with as well. And so coming here, yes, it hits a little bit harder here just because of the fact you know the people. If you were to work an incident or something like that. But at the same time, you know you have to deliver patient care immediately. You have to start working the problem as far as whether you're cutting cars, you're asking for the tools, you're opening up gates. I mean, there's a lot of parts and pieces a lot of people don't understand that are moving around.
Yes.
And or a lot of people are like, and then we critique ourselves and then like our team gets together and says, okay guys, what can we do differently? What can we do to make our team better than what we already are right now? And it's one of those things we get together, we talk about, because of the fact that our team, everybody has a certain assignment on that vehicle, whether it's in the MIG or whether it's in the med card out in turn 3 and 4. If we call out a zone number, whether it's a grandstand zone number, I mean, this whole track, if you ever saw one of our maps, it's broke down into zones. We have 8 zones all the way around the racetrack. We even have what we call the boneyard inside, because that's where, if we have an incident or a car that basically is getting mangled up and we can't take it off, it goes there. The wreckers don't take it back to the pits. We drop it in the boneyard. But it's just one of those things. But communication is the biggest key on it. So when you sit down and you start trying to figure out all the parts and pieces, there's 1,000 moving parts or pieces where you have to get gates open. You have to communicate with the city. And we're very fortunate that one of our team members is a predominant member in the City of Hampton Fire and Rescue, and they understand what we do here. He gives us basically full command. We basically can control any equipment he has coming in from the city. So,
That's cool.
but we also have a team around us that will work with us all the time, because half the people that are coming to the racetrack for, say, for a transport, 9 times out of 10, they've been out here on the racetrack working with a safety team.
Yeah, we got, Michael Ward said we've got over 300 years of experience on the safety team.
386, I think, to be exact, when we counted them
Wow,
up.
that's crazy. And then Jody Kennedy says, Langley Speedway safety team has a Facebook page, go like it. Is it the same people week in and week out, or do we have a crew and they kind of work in and out throughout the season?
We have 16 members on our team, not counting myself. I would be number 17 because I'm kind of on a dual role. But we have actually 16 total members on this team, and with their career, their professional firefighters and medics, basically what they do is they rotate a shift work. So we might not have the same team every week, but you'll at least see one of those guys probably at least 2 times a month.
Now, is it a rule if you get in a wreck on a racetrack and your car's got to be towed in, you got to go?
100%. I'm glad you brought that up. To all the drivers that are paying attention right now. Basically, if your car cannot continue, you cannot drive off from that thing. It is basically a mandatory ride into the evaluation lounge. A lot of people don't know we have it. It also serves as the driver's lounge down in the infield, but that's where our drop-off point is. That is the drop zone. So basically, if you have somebody that you're concerned about that we've taken in there, basically that is an evaluation area that we can, especially during the hot months. We go there, we drop them off, we do an evaluation there to make sure, or give our opinion whether we think they should be transported or not.
But do you have somebody staffing that during the course of the race, or you just pull somebody off to do it?
We run it, believe it or not, we run it anywhere between a 6 to an 8-man team out here on a Saturday night. So basically, if that's the case, even if you see what we call the MIC, our Mobile Infield Care Center, that's the new piece of equipment we got last year. If you see that even in the infield, that's not available for transport. That is basically a care unit for us, so we can evaluate, do basic first aid, that type of deal. That is not made to go on the road. It's not licensed to go on the road. But it also gives us a point where we can make driver comfort as much as we can while we're waiting on the other unit to pass, to transport. So, but if you ever have a loved one down here that's in the room that's been evaluated, we basically put them in there, take their vital signs, work with them, make sure they're okay before we release them. But during the same time, just because you see that unit there does not mean that we cannot continue racing, because we typically have a 4-man truck, basically still staffed, ready to go. And at that point, we can start transporting in the safety truck if we have to.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I asked is because there's once or twice I had to take that ride. I'm like, really? I'm fine, man.
If the car cannot drive, it is mandatory.
But I know that's the way it is on the touring and up it is. So I was like, all right. Hurry up, I need to get back over and look at my car.
Yeah. Anytime we can keep one of the competitors off the racetrack from walking from one side to the other, or even a spectator, because a lot of spectators will want to run to the edge of the racetrack, or sometimes they get on the racetrack. And that's one of the benefits that we've had here with the race directors that have been here in the last couple of years. They've really taken to the idea, hey, let's keep family members, let's keep angry crew members away from the vehicle. Let our safety team complete their work. That's one of my responsibilities as the safety director, or actually as of what my call sign is 99. Basically, I'm there to kind of be the liaison after I get done working the team to a certain point, and basically the team's taking over and doing all the transport. My job sometimes is to go back up to the family to reassure them they're okay. It's more of an evaluation, a look over to make sure they're okay. Give us a few minutes and we'll make sure that you can talk to them.
So how do you evaluate somebody like Scott? I mean, he ain't right to start with. So where do you even begin?
It's one of those things you kind of pick fly. Yeah, this is Scott. No, it's basically you have an idea of where these guys are at because you have that interaction with them throughout the days, throughout the years. You kind of get to know. So if you're diabetic and you start to act a little different, we kind of know because we've been around you for so long. We can start to see the body signs. Our training kicks in. Something's wrong. We have to do something now because this is not this typical Scott Allen right now.
But that's normal.
Well, there's not a typical Scott Allen anyway.
That's probably a true statement. Amy said yes, it thanks Bill Mullis for the ambulance that makes a few of the moms and wives happy. And I can imagine it does compared to, a few years ago we put CE on the back of the truck,
Yeah, and that point, and that's a rough deal because at that point we were getting ready to go racing again, and one of my biggest deals is I don't like to go live when we're tending to a driver, especially on pit road, because pit road's active, especially during that time. I think every Hampton heat we have every year is probably one of the hottest days we have around here. And drivers,
no pun intended for the name, but
but it was one of those things that drivers were falling out a lot that day, whether they didn't dehydrate early enough that week or the weeks prior to the event. But it was extremely hot, and that's one of those things we had to take a point, and I was basically say we're going green, and I had to get the guys off the racetrack. I had to protect our team. One of the things that our team looks at me as if I'm up here is I'm the eye in the sky. They know exactly where these cars at every moment on the racetrack. I talk to them. I'm in their ear. Nobody does radio traffic except for if I'm controlling as the ESC in the tower. They know. All right, the leaders are coming out of turn 4. I know I've got until the leaders get to start-finish line. I need to be off the racetrack. Mm-hmm. So, and it was one of those things that, whether it was a miscommunication that night in the tower, but it was one of those things that we had to get going. Whether it was the right call or not, I don't know, but it was the best call that our team could have done in order to make sure that driver was okay if somebody were to come down pit road hot.
Yeah. I just want to say, I know we got Lenny there, that we all appreciate all the safety team, not just Justin, but all the rest of the safety team.
I'll tell you what, being with him this afternoon before you got here.
Quit talking like that, Jack.
No, but I'm sitting here talking with him before you got here this afternoon. I've got more respect for Justin than, I didn't know Justin that well, really. Let's just put it that way. But I got more respect for what he's doing because he's got a lot on his plate when things we don't see.
Well, yeah, because in the end, something happens. Justin signed off, or he's responsible or overcharged of that, and nobody wants somebody's on their conscience.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot. It definitely is a lot, but at the same time, like I said, if you work with these drivers and get them to understand your concern of what possibly could happen or what might happen. I'm a safety guy. Even by everyday standards, what I do as a career in my life, I'm the what if guy. What if this happens?
Right.
Well, Justin, it's never going to happen. Well, what if it does?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's probably 99.9% of us down there.
It's like some people say about some of the racetracks. They're not going to hit there, so then we ain't got to worry about it. 99 times they might not hit there, but there's going to be one they might hit there. So
was it a wall in Texas that was like one spot? I forget who it was that hit, and it was just a freak thing, and the car, doored in the middle of a wall there, or not in the wall, a corner of a wall.
Disintegrated.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. We do a track walk every Saturday morning. Even if the track's already cleaned up, we could walk around the track to make sure to see if we see anything that possibly can potentially become an issue. Even down to what we have what we call a track 20 code. Which basically a track 20 code is something that happens to the racing surface, i.e. whether it's a fence or wall, a barrier, anything that goes bad, we actually sit back and try to analyze everything that possibly can go wrong.
Well, Justin, we appreciate you being here with us tonight. I don't know if you want to hang around, you might want to go or whatever, but...
Well, I'll slide over to the side and I'll hang out for a little while.
Okay, because we're going to get Lenny Batycki on here and talk with him. I want to hear a little bit about... But I appreciate this is very informative, the things that you told us.
So there'll be no excuse for the drivers when they show up Saturday.
And you're one of them. Just don't forget that. You're one of them.
I got my... I ain't gonna say act together because it's probably going a little too strong.
Well, do you have to keep that helmet right there? No, you're proud of it.
I got to put it on.
But how did you get your head in it?
It's tight.
All right, let's see if we can get Lenny on here and talk with him.
Hey,
what's going on, Mr. Batycki?
great to hear you guys still here in Juston.
Yeah, I've learned a whole lot tonight, more about safety than I thought I knew. I thought I knew a lot, but I didn't know nothing compared to this. So anyway, good to have you on, man. How's everything going with you?
Very good. Back from dirt races in Bristol and getting to go to Green Dickens week for the Cars Tour. Pit Road TV.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. And I know you were up at Bristol, so tell us a little bit about what you saw up at Bristol. That was an awesome, except the mud. That wasn't too good, but anyway.
Well, that is where power if you get it. It was really and the track was a little bit early for them to go out. So I'm not sure who made the call to do that, but they thought at that time they could. But it really didn't look like it was ready to have trucks out there. Proved out that it didn't. But on Sunday, it was, or Monday, it was, things were really good, and you could make it any smoother than it was. Had to have that dust. Down there where I was in turn 2, there was really no dust or anything. It was all maybe 50 feet above us, so you didn't see where we're being hit road.
Well, it was a great thing. I think they've already said they're going to be coming back next year, so I think that's a great thing to have that kind of dirt racing and bringing them back.
It brings together the split. Maybe we lost a bit folks that would go to Dixieland, Speedway, Virginia Motors that have maybe been pushed by some of the last decade. Whatever. Really, this kind of up. We have the World Outlaws Late Model Champion, Chris Brindle, the USAC champion, some others out there that were making starts that they just wouldn't have this season. We got an opportunity to see them at least participate at Bristol.
All right, now you're getting ready. The next big thing coming on down there at Charlotte is the big races for the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So tell us what all you got going on down there.
Coca-Cola 6 tickets are on. We're up to capacity that get tickets for. So CharlotteMotors.com and the drag race rolled 2 weeks earlier. Taxes go up. So if they want to go there again, you have to pay about 50%. So folks can go to ZMAX Drag, Charlotte Motors, all in the same spot. But they'd be able to have events down in May, and then a corner shootout out and so on and so. We're busy down.
Yeah, I can tell you. And now you're one of those busy people anyway. You're everywhere. I mean, I hear you going here and going there. When you gonna come up our way?
Waiting for Dixieland to open up to Friday, Saturday between Dixie and Langley, and I guess Dixie's probably another month away from maybe opening up over there, and that's kind of the target, to be able to get out that way and see a couple of tracks at the same time. And loved what I saw at Dixieland. Hadn't been to Langley since the early '90s, I think it was. When we did a motorcycle race there. So it'd be great to get back to Hampton Roads and see the track so famous for Hampton Heat. And I was going to try. I even went to my neighbors. I was going to try to get a can of Butterbeans to show off, to say that I saw Butterbean took the win there over the Dunkin' Donuts that I was hoping to have over Mark Wirtz or Corvette March. But you guys had some great racing there last week, and it's great to be back.
Yeah, it really is. I'm hopefully soon Scott and I will be able to get back. We haven't been able to get back yet, but NASCAR's got their limits of what they're doing, so we're hoping to get back soon because we really miss being a part of it.
And that was one of the weird things, that even though we had some fans at Bristol, even in the infield, it wasn't crowded. There was just some real big gaps, and we miss our friends being at these races. And I think as we continue to progress through this season, we'll see more and more. Heard Virginia Motor Speedway had some good races. I chatted with Juston Williams, who won up there earlier or last week. Great guy. And he said the crowd was just wide open cheering.
Well, we had a great crowd here at Langley Saturday night. So, I mean, everybody's dying to get back to normal, and it really showed. It really showed big time.
Well, I got my shots just so I could go racing. You know, I can show you the paperwork, whatever you need. Just let me in the track.
I gotta get one more. I'm still waiting on one more, so I'll get that on the 15th, and I'll be ready to go.
Second one zaps your energy, but not a whole lot else. And hey, then you can say you got your ticket to ride, in relative safety. I mean, you still want to be conscious of others and things like that, but wow. Once you get that second one, at least you've done everything that so far they've asked you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Lenny, how do you pick out where you're going when you go out to some of these tracks? I mean, do you just like say I'm gonna go to this one this week and see what's going on?
First off, weather.
Yeah.
Look where you could go. So I spend a lot of time from Tuesday to Friday watching the weather and kind of have an idea where I would like to go. And a lot of it's based on tracks within a region of radio stations that play our show. We try to be as local as we can to those tracks, and we'll visit some others that are further away from some of the radio stations. But the primary goal, if we're out and about, is to connect with the drivers, the crews, the fans that would listen to us locally on any given station.
So, go ahead. So when you go to these places, I mean, what are some of your favorite places that you've been to?
And where's the good food at, Lenny?
Well, I was just talking with when I was asking for the butter beans, and then I said something about the donuts. Tim Hortons Donuts up in Ohio isn't a bad thing to do. So I love what Mark Works and Dunkin' Donuts does down here in Virginia and the Carolinas. But, sometimes you want to have something different, and I scoot up there and have one of those when you're up at, say, Atomic Speedway or Brush Creek, things like that. Steak on a stick at Eldora, probably the best meal.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's some really good stuff. And, right here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Bojangles is always something that when I'm at the track, I'm grabbing some of those Supremes and, I might sneak a biscuit or two if nobody's watching. But, it's an awesome time to get out and just enjoy racetracks. It's the people. And that's what I look for when I'm at a track. Who's just there as a family, who's there as a guy with his open trailer and his truck and maybe his dog, and he's running in the street stock class and working hard. Maybe he's got his senior citizen dad there with him or his grandson helping him, and that's about it. Those are always good stories just to get to meet and experience things that if you're not out with people, you're just going to miss.
That's a good idea. Now when people ask me who you are, I'm going to say you're my senior citizen dad.
Don't go there. You got a comedian next door here. I mean, don't say a whole lot to him.
I've heard people ask Scotty, are you on the Facebook Live with your grandfather?
Lenny, come on now, buddy. I thought we were better than that.
I didn't necessarily say it was you, Jack, but
Unfortunately, I'm the only one up here with him most of the time. So,
I appreciate you guys, and you guys have. I mean, this show has just been amazing throughout all of COVID. You kept things going. You've really helped support the things in and around the Tidewater, and that's so important. Whether it's the tracks in Northeast North Carolina or all of them out there in Virginia, your show has really become something of real estate that is prime for the race fan, and thank you for what you've done.
Well, we appreciate it because we really work hard to try to bring the best we can get on the show and have a little fun. Like tonight with Juston, that was the thing where we needed to learn exactly what all was going on and what he has to do here at Langley Speedway. So that's a big deal for us, and we love being a part of that.
Whenever I'm asked by a racer or a family member, what can we get them or what should we do? A birthday, an anniversary, Christmas, anything, safety gear. Even if it's just Nomex socks or a new pair of Nomex gloves, an updated Hans device, better seat belts, make sure that stuff is taken care of. Make sure that their fire extinguisher on board is up to snuff, that it's been checked in the last little bit. It's one of those things that you're working on chassis, you're working on everything else, and you got the fire bottle that was there last season. Well, over the winter, it's kind of eased its way out, and now, it's not going to be there and active for you.
Yep.
You got to check that.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, we got a new racetrack going in up in West Virginia. You going to try to make it out there to see that West Virginia Motor Speedway?
Well, West Virginia Motor Speedway and the great history that it has, hopefully we could slide up there. We're on a station in Parkersburg, which is right around the corner.
Yeah.
West Virginia Motor Speedway, Ohio Valley Speedway, Tyler County, Elkins, they're all in and amongst it. I wish Pennsboro was still around, but that area there, within about 200 miles of Parkersburg, is maybe 30 different racetracks. So it's a hotbed, and we're glad to be on WMOA up there.
Yeah, we've had the guy that's the promoter there at West Virginia come on the show, and I hope to make a trip up there because I would really like to see that place. I've heard the history, but I've never been there. I just like to hear what's going on.
Cody Watson is really doing a good job with all three tracks, Tyler
Right.
County and Ohio Valley, and now the big one, West Virginia Motor Speedway. I've got a funny story for you. Devin Moran, who his dad's Donnie Moran, the $1 Million Man,
Yeah.
a Lucas Oil Series racer. His grandparents used to run the souvenir stand at West Virginia Motor Speedway, and he was telling me one time about when he was kids and getting in trouble and such, that they duct taped his brother Wiley with some duct tape and board from the souvenir stand and rolled him down the hill. Wiley didn't think it was funny as you and I do.
Well, I'm trying to be a little bit of a Lenny Batycki too, in a way, because I went out to Kingsport last year. I've never been to. I've been by there. I went out to Kingsport. I enjoyed that, and I'm trying to make a round to some of these racetracks. I want to go around to some of the places that I've always heard about, and I would like to go see them.
The Concrete Jungle is amazing. Karen Tunnel and her whole crew there do a great job, and certainly recommend it. I would imagine you've been over to South Boston, but
Yeah.
and Carly are there. There's going to be a whole new generation of thoughts and ideas, and Kathy Rice has set them up so well with all the work she's done. It'll be neat to see how South Boston emerges into the future with some young people there that have all the love for racing that anybody does, and now have the energy and new ideas to bring in. It's going to be pretty cool.
It is going to be great. I think it's going to be fun too. So I'm gonna try to pull Lenny Batycki and go to some of those places again this year.
Get out there in and amongst them, as my course down in Rockingham used to tell me to do. Lenny, got to get out there in and amongst them.
That's right, and I want to do it bad. I think it's a lot of fun to do that. So, well, Lenny, we appreciate you being with us, man. We hadn't heard from you in a long time and wanted to see how you were doing. And when you come up to Dixieland, let us know. We like to come down and hang out with you for a few minutes. I know you're going to be busy, but we'd like to hang out with you for a little bit.
Man, that'd be cool. I will definitely hit you up a day or two ahead once I know the weather's clear over there on the coast, and we can come and see all the good folks at Dixieland, and maybe make it a doubleheader and scoot up to Langley and see some stuff up there as well. Thank you for having us on. Please follow us on Twitter at PRN's at the Track. Hear our shows at goprn.com or one of those stations all around the country. Thanks for having us, guys.
And thank you for being here. And I do follow you really well, and I appreciate you following us some too. That's great.
Anytime, guys. Take care. Have a safe weekend.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I don't know how in the world he keeps up, but you could spout off a racetrack and he just spouts off who runs it, who owns it.
I know.
Radio station up the street.
And we just had the guy from West Virginia on here, and I couldn't think of his name.
It's like, but he's always been that way.
Now, we're supposed to have Andrew Fuller come on here. Now, where in the world is he at? I don't know what that thing.
I don't know. Click on it. Andrew, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
We can't see you.
Well, he's not that pretty anyway.
Let's see. Trying to figure out how to get the camera on.
You gotta open it up in Chrome.
Hell, I'll get it up in a minute.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you as you're trying to play with it, because, we got to talk to you anyway. And that may be the best thing that we don't have a picture. You never can tell.
That's a good one.
All right, Andrew. What all you got going on, man? You've been everywhere too. You're like Lenny Batycki, except with a camera.
I've been all over. I was at Dominion this past weekend, and this weekend I may be at Greenville, so we'll see.
Wow, you just decide to ride up and down the road. You go, don't you?
Kind of just play with the weather like Lenny does. And that's about it.
It's on his end. 'Cause he's
All right, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
put this one away.
Not sure why the camera's not showing up.
Well, it's probably because
Got it.
Oh, there it is. Man,
What's going
look
on,
at that
guys?
room you got there, buddy. What in the world? Do you do anything but racing?
Not really.
Hey, Andrew, how did you become a fan, or how did you get started? I mean, I remember when you were just a little kid at arena racing years ago.
So I went to my first race, I think, when I was 11, and it was at Richmond. And I was in this suite with my dad, my brother, and his friend. And I was like, man, this is cool. I kept following it, and then went to arena racing, and Jason Maines, the driver of the Sweet Fall car, was like there racing, and I went down afterwards, and I was like, man, these cars are incredible. And he's like, would you like to be part of my team this coming weekend? It's like, I don't know anything about cars, but sure. So I went down and helped him, and I was like, man, this is cool. And then found out about Southside 5 minutes from my house, and went there, and I had a backpack and T-shirts of different drivers, and people are like, man, where's this kid coming from? And I just fell in love with it.
I still hear where's that kid coming from you.
Yeah, and people still think I don't have a mom or dad, but they just don't like racing. So
I gotta give you credit, Andrew, because most kids say they want to get involved in racing, and that's all they say. It's like, I wish I could figure out how to do it. You've done it. Like, you didn't just say, hey, how do I get involved? You got involved. However you did, or however that path took you, you got involved.
just showed up to the track, bought a pit pass, walked up to drivers asking if they wanted help, or just kind of hung around and made friends.
So what kind of things you got going on? I understand you told me one time you had some new things getting ready to happen. So tell us what that's all about.
So this year I got a few clients, and this weekend down at Greenville, I'm going to be working with Travis Braden and Perry Patino in the super late models, along with Zane Smith and his new super late model team that he's joining this year. I'm going to be shooting some photos for them. And then if things can get worked out, I might be making a appearance in a mini cup at Dominion Raceway.
Oh, it's going to be in a mini cup.
Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, well,
That's probably the most dangerous thing you could probably get in. Am I right, Justin?
Suspension doesn't get too well enough.
Yeah.
it's just isn't that an overblown arena car?
It's an arena car, but at a track kind of like almost like Talladega, you have to draft it. If you're not in the draft, you're outnumbered, like Rally Music would say.
Okay, all right. Well, I wore my Andrew Fuller hat, and I've been on. Everybody wants to know who is Andrew Fuller, and I really don't know how to explain who Andrew Fuller is, except he's a photographer.
Just a kid who loves racing.
Yeah. How did the photographer stuff come about?
So a few years ago, my mom got me a camera from my birthday and was like, here you go. And then I went to Southside one day and was just kind of taking photos. Didn't know what I was doing or how to do it correctly. And then people were like, oh, I like those photos. And I was like, thanks, but I'm just kind of doing it for fun. And then the next year for Christmas, my stepdad bought me a camera and was like, here, if you're going to do photos, you got to have better equipment. So I was like, okay. And got a better camera and started going to Dominion and Southside and Langley. And people were like, can we buy your photos? And I was like, sure. It's just, giving photos out. And then a few years ago, got picked up by a NASCAR media company to shoot photos at a NASCAR race. I was like, I really don't know what I'm doing, but okay. And so I showed up to Richmond the first day and walked through the tunnel and into the media center, and I was like, I'm actually about to shoot.
Shoot who?
Shoot NASCAR. I was like, oh my Lord. Like, I was just blown away.
That must have been before. Where was it when we seen him about fall over? Was it Charlotte?
Yeah. No, it was Richmond. That was Richmond.
Richmond.
It was Richmond when he was following along behind somebody's wife. I don't know who it was.
Whitney Dillon.
Yeah, he's about like one of those guys that just walks and just turns right into a pole. It was him that fell over. We were sitting there watching.
His shirt had slobber running down the front of it.
I'm surprised he didn't come over there. Oh, are you okay?
So now you done got to be friends. You done got to be friends with him. I see.
Kind of friends with her a little bit, and then Spencer Boyd, Corey LaJoy, and made a lot of friends down in NASCAR. Met you guys and seen you guys all over the place, even at Bob Levine's shop. Which, how did they let Scott in? That's my question.
Well, you know, sometimes you just can't leave him outside. He might get in trouble. So they told us to bring him on in, but we had to sit down. But that was, you know, Bob Levine. We had a good relationship with Bob, so I guess Scott, you know, he made it all right with him.
Well, that's good.
They let you in, so I guess we all good.
It was fan day, and I walked in there, and then Bob offered me food, and I was like, okay.
Bob's one of the nicest guys.
Yeah, Spud's going to miss him. He's not. It's going to be, you know, he's just one of those few guys that everybody got along with.
I love him on Twitter because he's like one of those guys that just tells you the truth and what his opinion is, right or wrong.
That's right. Now, Andrew, when you coming to Langley?
Probably end of April. I have Greenville this weekend. Not sure what I have next weekend quite yet, but Langley's on my calendar.
Okay, just make sure you don't come on Pro 6 night because you might have to take a picture of Scott, and there goes them cameras, all to pieces.
Well, I'll get a photo for Scott. His car looks good.
His car looks good?
Yeah, I told him at open practice I would shoot photos for him, you know, him by the car, but he said he wasn't in his driver's suit, so he couldn't do it.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Big old boy. He's poor, pitiful him. You know what I mean? He didn't even come out here and practice.
Well, he brought his
But
car
he was
on
over.
the track.
But he thought he was over there signing autographs and stuff. I heard about that.
Don't be a hater, Jack.
So anyway, all right, Andrew. What we want to see you around sometime soon. I got my sticker on here. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. I need a few stickers of your guys' show, and I'll put it on my toolbox, my door. I'll put it anywhere.
Okay, I'll get you a couple. Well, I'll get you a few when I see you next. So
probably end of April.
Okay, we'll work on that. I might run into you somewhere else by then. Never can tell.
You want to go to Greenville with me this weekend?
No, I can't go to Greenville. I'm gonna come out here and watch Scott race this weekend.
Okay.
I've already got my seat set up here in the media center, so I can just sit there and watch. And I'm gonna try to find a way. I'm gonna put some red, yellow, and green stickers on his pedals so he'll know which one is which.
That's a good idea.
Anytime you start a race and you hit the brake instead of the clutch or whatever he did, that's pretty bad.
That's very bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. All right, dude. We'll talk to you again soon, okay?
And I just have to say, this is the best mullet, and it's coming to Langley. So, Butterbean, I'm sorry.
Oh, Lord. You and Butterbean and your mullets. All right, whatever. We'll talk to you again soon, okay, man?
All right, you guys have a good night.
Keep us up to date on what you're doing, all right?
Will do.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
All right, later.
But you do gotta give it to Andrew. Most kids coming to sport, they're always trying to figure out, how do you get on a team? How do you do this? I mean, you just make it happen, you know?
And he made it happen.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Well, I think this was probably the best show we've had in a while. We had Justin on here and really had a good discussion. Yeah, it discussed a lot of good things. And now when I see Justin roaming around, I won't think, well, he's just hanging around, not doing anything.
That's why people say, where's your helmet?
Where's the one you're using?
So that'd be cool too. So, but Justin, thanks a lot for coming. I mean, I know you got a lot going on, and I know you think you probably came from work today to come up here.
I did. We actually had a compliance inspection at one of our job sites, so I was rushing to get here as fast as I could.
Well, I appreciate you making that effort for us, and it means a lot to us.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I think it was informative for other people, and you know, I mean, I didn't know. I don't know any of those rules. I just give you my stuff, and you say, "Oh,
That's a scary thought, isn't it, Justin? He don't know the rules.
I guess you have not read the rule book.
That's you got it. Just like you said when you said something's highlighted, it's got to be highlighted if you wanted to grab my attention.
All the safety equipment's actually listed in red this year. It's completely updated from the last couple of years.
Do you know where to go find it?
Justin will show me. That's part of Justin's job.
Yeah.
That's why I had him on the show. That's why I said we got to have Justin on here so people can understand.
That's your driver, Robert. I'm not going to say nothing else about it. That's your driver. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody being with us. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Share our show. Go around and talk to everybody about it. Talk us up. We love being talked up. But anyway, thanks, Justin. I want to thank Lenny Batycki, and I want to thank Andrew Fuller for being with us tonight. Not sure who we got next week yet, but probably Robbie Davis. I'm not sure I want that.
I want to say you're fired starting the show. We're going to see how you end it and see how that works.
I ain't got to hit but one button to end it.
No, it's more than that.
Oh, it is? Well, when you become a better mechanic, you'll get here on time.
Probably I left like real early.
I mean, driving somebody else's car that you're working for, working on their car, you come over here and break down, and you have to go and call that guy who you're driving his car, bring you to the show. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, he's real smart, isn't he?
I never said the two of y'all together was smart. So anyway, I mean, there's got to be a problem there. He hooked onto you. All right, but thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.